6:30 Apple time. Tonight, I will call to order the Wenham Select Board meeting of November 3rd, 2021, again at 6:30. This meeting is being recorded. It is a virtual meeting. We will take all our votes by roll call, and we do have all members of the Select Board here, Gary Cheeseman, myself, Diane Bucco, as well as the town administrator, and some staff members and others who will be making presentations. I think that's all the important stuff. So we'll move on to the first item on, as is always the first item on our agenda, public input. Just as a sort of an announcement, this public input slide is going to be changing. I keep saying that. I'm going to propose a change to the select board. I find it to be a little heavy-handed, and I want folks to know that we appreciate and are open to public input and would like to have it. And so if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak tonight on an item that is not on the agenda, if you could put your name in the chat, or I can put your name in the chat. Okay.
It's like Patrick had something, Catherine.
Sure, Patrick, welcome.
Thank you. So I actually have two quick items. One is the turf working group has been formed and we've started to meet, and Gale Associates has been hired, and we've kicked off and started to look at improving the athletic fields at the high school, and that just to let everyone know that it has started. The study group has, or the working group has kicked off, and we're working towards finally coming to town meeting, maybe, but not for another year or so.
Oh, that was going to be my question, Patrick. This town meeting? Okay, thank you.
No, we will not be ready for this town meeting. And then the second piece is through this, as a private citizen, through my work with the Town Government Study Committee, it's come to my attention and through the public forum that the town could possibly be on the hook for paying benefits, basically health insurance benefits, to any elected official who receives any stipend whatsoever, whether it be $1 or $1,000. It's troubling because right now benefits for a nominal stipend is approximately $27,000 per. So all members of the select board are eligible, as are any other elected officials that receive a stipend. So that could be a big hit to our budget. I do plan on raising this on the floor of town meeting this year, next year, excuse me.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Noted. Thank you for your input. Anyone else that would like to say anything tonight before we get started on the agenda? I don't see anyone in the chat. Anyone else? Do you, Ryan?
Nope, no one
Okay.
else others here.
So, okay, we will move on then to our announcements. We have a couple of them, a number of them tonight. And Ryan, if we could ask you to give our announcements, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you, Catherine. So as a reminder, our board, we have some board and committee openings. We've got one opening on the Council on Aging, one opening on the Hamilton Wenham Community Access and Media Committee, two openings on the Iron Rail Commission, one opening for the Wenham Human Rights Committee, two openings on the WISH Committee. So if anyone is interested, I encourage them to either email myself or the admin@wenhamma.gov email address that's listed here on the screen. So admin@wenhamma.gov. Next is a reminder that the bag leaf pickup, we've got 2 rounds scheduled. The first round is scheduled for Saturday, November 20th, and second collection is scheduled for December 11th. So some reminders, bags and barrels must be on the curb by 7 a.m. on the collection days. Don't use plastic bags. You want to use paper bags for this. Please don't mix in brush or sticks. that's a no-no as well. So it's really a focus on leave. So again, needs to be into a brown paper bag by 7 a.m. on the collection days, which again are Saturday, November 20th and Saturday, December 11th. I want to make the board aware of Veterans Day's activities. We, on November 11th at 10:15 at the Cheeseman Memorial, we'll be starting our observation. And actually, I should probably put this over to Gary, because he probably has even could do this for better than I could. So Gary, I don't know if I hand this over to you, if you want to go through this.
Can do. So starting at 10:15, and then at 11 o'clock, we have Major Brendan Carnes, recently returned from Afghanistan, will be speaking at the War Memorial, and that'll be followed by refreshments at the Wenham Fire Station, I think, with the assistance of Boy Scout Troop 28. Second reminder there is that that follows with the Wreaths Across America at the Main Street Cemetery on December 18th at noon. And if I could, Madam Chairman, at the moment, did you see our invite to the American Legion Post?
Yeah, I have not sent that out, Gary. Thank you for pointing that out. I have that here, and what I'm planning to do is send that out after the meeting to the board for the invitation to the American Legion Post for their events that same day. So thank you.
All right.
A question on that: the observances, particularly the one at the Veterans Memorial, that's a little longer. And is everything rain or shine?
Yes.
On the 11th?
Yes.
Okay. Want people to know.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks, Gary.
This is just a reminder to the board that our operating budget meeting is scheduled for 9 a.m. on Saturday, November 20th. So just a reminder to you to keep that date open. Again, it's Saturday's a little off schedule. So again, just kind of keep that in mind as you put together your schedule for the month. Special election, the general election, the primary took place yesterday here in Town Hall. As I understand from Trudy, everything went well. The primary election is scheduled for November 30th. Voting is going to be taking place at Town Hall during the hours of 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So just a reminder, this is filling the vacancy from the 4th Essex District, which is Brad Hill's former seat. So we encourage residents to study up on the candidates and to vote on November 30th. So again, November 30th, voting here in Town Hall, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Also, a reminder that the COVID-19 vaccine appointments are being accepted at the Hamilton Senior Center Wednesdays, 3:30 to 6:30 p.m. And if anyone is interested in seeing what the update is on current cases, they can go to our website at wenhamma.gov/COVID. So, okay. With that, Madam Chair, if I could just continue on to my update, if you don't mind.
Please, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to inform the board that we have successfully auctioned off via an online bidding source the 2000 KME pumper for $13,600. I'm reporting this to you per our financial guidelines. I also will be following up on an email with this, but just wanted to make you aware that we are currently in the process of formally selling that and working with the high bidder on that particular matter. So that's good news and certainly clears up some space behind the fire department where the pumper is currently residing. Wanted to also let the board know that 13 Wenham Police Department officers are signed up to grow beards for the month of November as a fundraiser for the Dana-Farber Cancer Hospital. This is being done in honor of former police captain Jeff Toby, who, as I understand, passed away from cancer. And just wanted to say how thoughtful I thought this was, both for the chief and the entire department to make, to put forward this gesture and support Dana-Farber in this way. I would say, though, if anyone does come into contact with any of the PD members and they look a little shaggy for the month, at least you'll know why that is in fact the case. So just to make you all aware of that. For good purposes, they're not just being sloppy. Finally, I just want to make the board aware that we have received responses to the Iron Rail cell phone tower proposal. We are currently in the process of checking references on the bidders and making a determination on that as to how we're going to proceed. But I will be reporting back to the board on that, where that's going soon. So that's my update, and I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Any questions for Ryan and his update? If not, I just have an update in my chair's report. At our last meeting, we were talking about redistricting. I think that was our last meeting. And I said that I would take the responsibility to call Bruce Tarr and just share with him some of our concerns about the potential redistricting. I did do that. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of a delay between the time I reached out and the time we actually spoke. So the day that we spoke was the day that the Senate had voted on Senate redistricting. Nonetheless, I asked the questions and voiced my concerns, and his I don't know, guidance to me was actually that even relative to the House redistricting, and which is going to affect Wenham, he did not believe that any comment that we made or concern that we in Wenham made would really have changed anything or affected a change in the way that redistricting was done. That especially in the House, it seemed to have had a very I want to reflect what he said correctly, but a pretty focused plan in general to redistrict, and that to go back on that, even if it had been before they voted, to change one redistricting would create a domino effect, which would, change a lot of towns, and probably we would not have prevailed. So although we missed our deadline apparently for comment, it doesn't, according to Senator Tarr anyway, didn't seem as if it would have made a difference. If I understand this correctly, the redistricting, both Senate and House have voted, and I believe it's still on the governor's desk. I haven't heard that he has signed the final redistricting, but looks like that's going to happen for us. While I had him on the phone, I did ask him, or I lobbied a little bit for our recall petition, which has been sitting in the Senate since September 20th, just really waiting for them to say, yep, because it's a very straightforward thing. I think it's number 67 on their third reading agenda. So I lobbied a little for him to remember that was there, and it was really important for us. And he said he would do what he could. He also we acknowledged the fact that our 1A project, signalization project, although we're getting really good response from the state folks that we're working with, for him to please not forget that that's something that's important to us, and he would keep that on his radar. And we talked a little bit about the request that's been made of all of us, I guess, about the ARPA and budget surplus money and some ideas for spending it. I understand that we have submitted something, and I don't know when the Senate is going to take up, how they're going to spend that money. But that was the conversation I had with Bruce. It wasn't exactly the answer I think we were hoping for, but it was an answer nonetheless. That's all I have. Do the select, Diane, Gary, anything you want to report or speak to? Seeing nothing.
Gary?
Not here. Diane?
Diane.
Thank you, Catherine. I think that's great that you reached out to him. we'll see what happens there.
You're
But
welcome.
I had a question for you guys about the reverse 911. I just had someone mention to me that the reverse 911 that went out for the election, although might have reminded people to come and vote, wasn't really an emergency. Do we have a policy on when we use that? You're laughing because I think it comes up a lot.
It comes up a lot, and maybe Gary, there is something that happened while I was gone, but it has come up a number of times, and we always say, oh, we should really have, delineate the reasons for which we would have a reverse 911. And to my knowledge, that list has never been put together. It's probably, we may be off-put by the fact that no matter what list we put together, some people like it and some don't.
Right.
But Diane, you make a really good point. I think if it's okay with folks, we should probably put that on an agenda, and just for once, even if it's not completely correct, codify it so people, we decide what's an emergency, what isn't, what should go out, what shouldn't, and everyone.
Maybe get some feedback
it.
from the community. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, we all have our opinions, but
right.
maybe we should hear some more. Just a
Yeah,
thought.
it's a good thought. It's been, sort of controversial. And yet it has its purpose. So, okay, I'll be sure to bring that up again so we can discuss it and make sure we get some feedback, and
Thank you.
ultimately, hopefully, bring it into something codified.
Madam Chair, just to let you know, it looks like Trudy has her hand up.
Oh, okay, thank you. I don't. Oh, hi, Trudy.
Hi. I was just wondering if I could comment on Diane's statement.
Sure.
I just wanted to, I actually got several compliments yesterday because it did help residents to remember the election because it wasn't highly publicized.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there was a lot of campaigning going on. There wasn't a huge amount of signs up. So I just had talked to Ryan on Friday about it. And because I was getting calls on Friday saying, oh, we have an election on Tuesday. And I don't think, I don't know about Diane's tenure in office, but I think it's rarely used for elections, but I just thought it was a good call just because it came up all of a sudden. There wasn't much publicity about it. And as the smallest community yesterday that had the elections, our percentage was in the double digits along with the towns that actually had candidates from their communities. So I think it did help. And I agree that there might be maybe a policy needed, but I felt that it was very effective yesterday.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks.
It was, I do agree, it was not a well publicized election. But I think that the bigger question is elections in general. Should they routinely be on? This one was a pretty special case. So thank you, Trudy.
Thanks.
Okay, so we do have a consent agenda this week,
Ooh,
this meeting.
that's me then, right?
It is, and we could go right to taking a motion.
I make a motion. I move to approve the open session minutes of October 5th, 2021 and open session minutes of October 14th, 2021.
Second,
Okay, and this being a consent agenda, we've agreed that we don't need any discussion, so we'll go right to a vote. Diane,
Yes.
Gary,
yes.
and Catherine, yes. So unanimous. I will comment that I did read them, and as usual, Catherine Tinsley, thank you very much. I don't know how you listen to all of that and pull it together in a concise way, but clearly it's a skill, talent, or whatever. So thank you for that. Okay, we have I didn't mention at the beginning, this worked out pretty well. We have a fairly short time frame for this meeting because so many things got rescheduled after the storm last week, but we also have a fairly light agenda, not to say that there aren't some important things on the agenda. The next one, which I've gone right past, I'm sorry, let me just go back on my slides, is a presentation from the Cemetery Commission Chairperson, Bill Wilson, to update the board on cemetery rules and regulations. And I our agenda says to vote on said recommended changes. I don't imagine that we will do that, just as an upfront comment, because as is our custom with things like this that affect a lot of people, we would typically have a conversation, ask some questions, and bring it to the very next meeting for a vote. But I did see Bill Wilson here, I think. Yeah, oh, there you are.
I'm here.
So thank you for coming, and thank you for sending a presentation.
Okay, so this is a follow-up
for
to a
it.
letter that the commission sent to you folks on the 22nd of October.
Mhm.
It was titled Approval Request for the Revised Wenham Cemetery Rules and Regulations. So the rules and regulations were last voted on by you folks there December of 2016 and accumulated a bunch of changes up to the current date right now. So I want to do is kind of give you an overview. And since it's the first time that we've had a full board, I'll just go through a quick overview of who we are. As far as members, we have Harry Davis, who's on board tonight there, and Olivia Shovlin, who's on board here as well, have been instrumental in going through the review process of the rules and regulations. We do have a new burial agent that we voted on earlier this year, Keith Carter, and then Sheila Bouvier doing yeoman workforce in the background there, but a good cemetery commission crew. Next chart. And this is for Ryan, you know, new to the town, but we manage 3 cemeteries. We want to maintain the tradition of doing those cemeteries for the residents. So these were taken, obviously, last year. We got Main Street, which is closed, as I say. Fairfield Cemetery, which is definitely closed, and Iron Rail, which is the cemetery that has the most activity right now as far as new lots and sales. Next chart. This slide I briefed to the board on 9th of February, 2021. And one of the items we had down there is update to cemetery rules and regulations of 2016. We have done that. But on the 4th bullet down there, another one that we were working on in the background, review Main Street grave documents, determine if there are additional Main Street lots available for sale to the citizens of Wenham. And I know that Diane was instrumental in helping us go through this and identifying those things. So the rules and regulations accommodates or accounts for that and how we will distribute those new highly coveted Main Street lots that to the citizens of Wenham. Next chart. So background, Gary, he was the cemetery guy before me, and he accumulated a lot of changes going forward, handed off to me in July of 2020, where I picked it up there and started to run with it with the board that we have there. So we took all his changes, we took additional changes that came up there, and what you have in this package here is the 2021 version, which incorporates everything. And it's in this package tonight, along with the letter and the previous one, that if you get a chance to take a look at it. So quick summary, change summary. So the first one is what I call wordsmithing. Things just didn't sound quite right. You know, you have to do some global changes on clerical corrections, ambiguity, clarity, and specificity to the document, kind of tighten it up a little bit. So that's globally across the entire document itself. Section 6, we increased the cost of the perpetual flowers. These are the ones that are bought prior to Memorial Day. It was $200, it's now $300 to offset inflation. And it's a great idea to do that. The one that you should concentrate on, I think, has the biggest impact to the citizens of Wenham, is the most substantive change in the document itself. It details the process for selling lots back at the Wenham Main Street Cemetery. They become available by buyback. A lot of people sell them back to us, or discovery is vacant. And I'll go through a little bit more of this. Available lots will be listed on the town website. We want to do this annually in May, and this is documented in the rules and regulations. Purchase applications will be accepted from Wenham residents, and a point system will be used to determine how we prioritize applicants for sale of availability. So these are, you know, we've had a lot of requests that they want to buy into Main Street, and there's nothing there. So there's a lot of people are interested in this. We've increased the fees for lots that go up for this, not a lottery, but for this prioritized list there. It'll be $1,300 That's up from 1,000, which is what we sell iron rail lots for a full burial. Then 650 for cremation lots, of which we send 500 for iron rail. So a price increase to accommodate a highly coveted area in the Wenham Main Street Cemetery. Next chart. So I'm not sure if you can see that on your monitor. You can see the point system on the right-hand side. I just have pictures of you folks there. You see the point?
Yeah,
Looks good, yes.
we can see it. Yeah, we
Okay.
can see it.
I can't see it here, but
Oh, thank you for making it a little bigger.
yeah. So the point system would be that we would post in May timeframe that there are a number of lots available. People in Wenham, residents Wenham, would get back to us with the point system and categories as we have down there. There are 6 categories. So first one, parent, sibling, or child already interned in Wenham Cemetery, you get 3 points for that. Born to a Wenham resident, and then you get 1 point for that. Years lived in residence. So the people that have been here for an extremely long time get a good plus up there for 50 years. They get 3 points for that. If you're an elected or appointed town official, you get points for that. And then for veterans, honorably discharged or retired veterans get a point, or honorably discharged and retired veterans enlisted or commissioned, while a resident of Wenham get 2 points for that. So once we have all the applicants come in, we'll tally up the numbers. The first person who has the most points would get the pick of, say that we have a dozen lots available. They would get the pick of the dozen lots. But all this is detailed in the rules and regulations. So if you read it, just take a look at that. That's the most important part and impacts the town of Wenham.
Okay.
Next chart.
We did.
So, any
Yeah.
questions at this point?
No, we'll wait to the end.
You can do them now, or we can wait till the end. It doesn't make any difference.
That's okay. Let's wait and I think hear the rest of it and then we'll
Okay.
go back and see if there are questions.
All right, so the review process, how do we get there? There's been a lot of work in the individual meetings of the Cemetery Commission, which are documented in the minutes prior to this there. But on the 10th of August, we conducted a page-by-page, word-by-word review with the full Cemetery Commission present. Also, Gary was there, and thank you, Gary, for participating in this. And the final changes, revisions were completed, and it was approved by the commission. This is good. Let's go forward with it. So a really thorough review by the Cemetery Commission leading up to this. So summary, most changes are minor, clerical corrections to remove ambiguity and clarity and specificity to the document, the wordsmithing things that I spoke about there. Process added for Wenham Main Street Cemetery lot to become available by buyback or discovery as vacant, and there are a number. And we think there's fair and equitable distribution for Wenham residents, and they'll be made available once per year. So next steps, I think, Catherine, as you said there, that you'll go back, have some discussion, then vote perhaps next time you folks meet there. So at this point, I'll entertain any questions that the board may have or others.
That'd be great because that will help us at the next meeting. Does anyone have any questions for Bill about the changes or the updates, I should say?
I don't think I have any questions. I thought that was a great presentation. I'm so pleased with all that work. I love that the database is up to date and working well, and that there's a point system, and the rules are all brought up to date. So I thank you all for that amount of work. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you for your help too, because the discovery process of the lots on Main Street took a lot of work with the database, and you are a forefront in us helping get down to the ones that we could make available to the citizens of Wenham. So thank you for your help.
Gary, I'm not sure that you have any questions or comments, but if you do, please.
Yes, so I'll just say, echo what Diane said, that this has been a very thorough process. I know the Cemetery Commission went through to develop these updated regulations and to develop the terms for dispersing the rare lots that come available at Main Street.
Okay.
No question.
I'd like to thank Gary for the transition from the old commissioner to me, myself. I inherited a large majority of all this stuff here to include the lot system or the prioritized list. So we just kind of polished it a little bit there, but thank you.
Well, I guess as is the custom, I do have a couple of questions. I haven't been involved in it, but before I ask any questions, I want to echo everyone's gratitude and thanks. Updating documents like this, as we know, we don't do often enough, and it's a very tedious and difficult job and takes a lot of time. So thanks to everyone for their diligence and their attention to detail who worked on updating this. It's nice to, particularly the sale of lots in the Wenham, in the main cemetery, because it's been a sometimes controversial thing and perceived to be unfair, who happened to get one or not get one. So codifying this and putting together point categories is a key, I think, one of the key points of the changes here. Everything else, you know, it seems like, thank you again for doing that. I do have a couple of questions, and if you could bring back up, if you can, the point categories. I will admit to being a little confused by a couple of these, so I just wanted to understand the rationale. So I guess let's just jump down to, so one of the things that I wasn't sure about the equity of was the point system for a town employee versus the point system to a Wenham resident who's not an employee. So number 4 says town employee with greater than 10 years of service. Is it presumed that that town employee is also a resident?
No, I mean, if he gets points if he is a resident, but go ahead, Gary. Yeah.
Well, to be buried in the cemetery to begin with, you have to be a Wenham resident. That's the precursor rule.
Okay. So I think that it might be useful to clarify that in this chart, because it looks to me like if you just worked in town for 10 years, you'd get the same number of points as someone who was born to a Wenham resident or had lived in town for 39 years. So I think if what you're saying is it's a town employee that lives in town for no matter. So a town employee who's worked for 10 years and has lived in Wenham for 25 years, according to this chart, would get a point for living in Wenham and an additional point for being an employee for 10 years. Is
Right.
that, I understand that. So I might recommend that resident town employee. The elected or appointed town official, is that 10 to 19 consecutive years or cumulative years? I
Would
think
be
you might be,
Cumulative
people
years.
might ask this. Sorry?
Cumulative years. In other words,
Cumulative
you
years.
get 4 years here, take a
Okay.
year off, go back, do more 4, so it's cumulative.
Okay. And again, I'm presuming that the veterans, that all of the veterans were residents,
Not so, I mean,
but not necessarily.
not necessarily that if you were, like Gary was a veteran that when he went into service, he came from Wenham.
Mm-hmm.
So me, on the other hand, I'm a veteran. I came from Lexington, so I don't get the 2 points. I only get the 1 point. So there's a difference of the two.
Okay.
So
So
Gary, grew up in Wenham.
Yeah.
Here, I did not.
Okay. So I guess I would ask for some consideration to look at the equity of some of the points. And I understand it's very it's not, I don't want to say arbitrary, it's somewhat up to interpretation. But I'm thinking about a person who has lived in Wenham for 39 years, who would get 1 point in this system, and someone who may be an employee who's lived in town for 1 year, but has worked for 10 years, also gets 1 point. I feel like there should be perhaps a little more emphasis on, actually the amount of time living in Wenham. I don't know how many people, greater than 50 years. But that employee thing seemed a little inequitable to me. I just ask you to think about that. And I guess we do have elected or appointed officials that, well, yes, we definitely do, if it's not cumulative 20 years or greater. Yeah, so that was the years lived in Wenham versus the town employee times were probably the two things that struck me as, wow, if you've lived there that long versus, living there and just working there, it seemed like there could be a difference. Does that make sense?
I think so. That Gary raised the point there, a town employee with greater than 10 years, they live in Wenham. Just
Right.
in order to be in this lottery, if you will, there. So they get a point for that if they've been 10 years in town there versus someone that's been in there 25 to 39 years, they only get 1 point. That's the differentiation you're trying to make, I think, right?
Right. And I don't mean to, denigrate the work of our employees, but being a resident in town, living here, paying taxes, doing all the things that we do for 25 to 39 years seems pretty weighty in terms of the ability to get a coveted lot in the Main Street cemetery. So it just seems like that was the only thing that was it didn't particularly seem equitable to me. Other than that, and there are a few other things that in the text that relate to that, but other than that, I didn't have any questions. I did have one other thing, which now I'm not finding, that came. This is I think this is an oversight, and I could actually call about this later, but on the last page or section 5 of I think the actual document, it says charges like burials fees shall be, the fees for services shall be set by the Wenham Cemetery Commission and are subject to change. That is certainly a true statement, but earlier you make the comment that they are set by the Cemetery Commission and approved by the Select Board. So that's just a consistency thing. It's on page section 5 of the document. So that's all I really had. Again, I thank you for that. I hope when in May when you're going to make this announcement, please let our town administrator know that it's coming, because I think this is something that would be great to make a few announcements so that people are aware that it's going to happen, because
I would recommend that we meet one more time and have a rollout
Sure.
briefing for you folks here before we do it, like in the April timeframe or before, because that the commission has thought about this and it's a little bit weighty in how we do it. We want to do it right, do it once. So I think the review process would be needed to make sure that this comes out great the first time out. So maybe if Ryan could pencil it in for February or March of next year to the rollout of this lottery, for the lack of a better term here, to the Select Board before we do it in May.
Right. That's a good idea too, because as I've said before, I think these meetings with the wide viewership that we have are a pretty decent vehicle for letting people in the public know what's going on. So if you're doing a rollout at Select Board meeting, it'll raise awareness that it's happening.
Yeah, to be a dry run. In other words, get your approval that you approve of the rollout, and then we do the rollout. So that's what I'm thinking.
Sounds good to me. Diane, Gary, anything further? If not, thank you very much for, again, all the work and the great presentation. I think it's
We had a pretty strong committee there, of the three of us here. So credit goes to the committee.
Yeah, thanks to all of you, and thank you for being here tonight. Okay, to be continued.
Yeah, and just so in terms of the vote, would this be something that that Bill, you'd want to take back to the committee with these comments, or and then come back to us? Just want to clarify next steps.
Is that to me or to?
Are we ready to vote on the 16th, our next meeting?
Correct. Yeah.
So I
My
think the question
takeaway
was
is-
for Bill to see if
All right,
that's the
so-
right time.
Yeah, so I think the only action from this review is the rationale for years lived in Wenham versus town employee with greater than 10 years. The equity, as you call it, it's an equitable point structure.
Mhm.
So I owe you a response to that.
All right.
Correct, Catherine? Did I capture that right?
Yeah,
This is
yes,
2024?
yes, and there's a few wording things that go along with it that I'm happy to just email separately. Not
Yes.
worth going over, just the
Right.
consistency things.
So that's a second item there. The second action is on section 5, the inconsistency in fees and
Right.
select
Those-
board approval.
So I guess what Ryan is saying is that our next meeting is November 16th. And will you have an opportunity to have a meeting or to address any of these, have a response for us so that
Yes.
we could particularly, okay.
Yeah, the
So Ryan,
commission
it sounds
meets
like
on the 9th of November, so we'll discuss it at that meeting there and come up with a response.
And we'll
Okay.
tentatively plan to bring this back on the 16th. Okay. That
Yeah.
sounds about right. Okay,
Okay,
great.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on that? Okay, we have one piece of old business on this agenda that's is a little old actually now, but I think ready for action. It has to do with the Habitat for Humanity regulatory agreement for the Hull Street project. And I see Margaret. Ryan, do we?
Yep,
is
Margaret is
going to
Margaret
present
is
on this?
here. If she can speak to this, I'm going to get up the motion for everybody.
Thank you for coming, Margaret.
Sure, thank you. Just a little background. We received a request from Megan, I think her name was Megan O'Neill, from Habitat for Humanity. The regulatory agreement is a document that has to be signed. It's an agreement between the Habitat for Humanity, the municipality, and DHCD. It lays out the requirements for the affordable house. So I think everyone's aware, Habitat for Humanity built 2 units. It's one building, 2 units at 40, what was 40 Hull Street. So the property's built, the people are actually living in it, but they couldn't transfer ownership until this regulatory agreement was signed. So we sent it to our town council, Jonathan Eichman at KP. He's approved it. Chris G at DHCD has approved it. And Kurt James, Habitat for Humanity's attorney, has also approved the document. So we feel confident that the select board is able to sign off on it tonight. If you have any questions about it, I'm assuming you've all seen it, you've read it. It's a standard form pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had to sign these. Well, I guess I have had to sign these before for some of our,
Yep.
some of the other ones. Questions for Margaret or anything about this before we take a motion? Gary, do you have any questions?
No,
No, Diane?
No,
I would like to point out that the address is now 36 and 38 Hull Street. It was 40 because there was a single family home on it, but through the assessor's office, they changed it to be 36 and 38.
Okay, so the
And
regulatory
40
agreement
went
that
to
we
the-
have.
Yeah, and there was a house behind this that took 40. It used to be 40R and they wanted to change to 40, so they moved the numbers around a little bit, but it's still the same
Okay.
property.
Okay, I have no further questions. I guess we do that. What your comment about the address does is already reflected in the motion. You guys are so efficient. So we're ready for a motion, I think.
all right, move to support the request of Habitat for Humanity for the select board to approve and endorse the regulatory agreement for 36 and 38 Hull Street, formerly 40 Hull Street.
second,
Okay, I would only note, as I guess I always do, that I guess there's probably only one of these. We usually try to, tie the motion to an actual document. But since the address has changed, that's probably the one. So as long as we use the regulatory agreement that says 6 or 38 Hull Street, we'll have the right one sort of attached with this. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the document that will be attached.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and if there are no further questions, we'll go to a vote. Diane,
Yes,
Gary,
Yes.
Catherine, yes. So that's unanimous, and I'm very excited to have Habitat have a this is hard to say, have a Habitat for Humanity home in Wenham with folks already living in it. It's really exciting. So
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you very much.
thank you, Margaret. So the last thing that we have is other matters as may not have been reasonably anticipated. I do not have any of those. And assuming that no one else does, I've made a note of the fact that we're going to have, and Ryan has too, I'm sure, have on our next agenda the issue of, at least get started on the issue of what a list for a reverse 911 might look like, a criteria list, and also the Cemetery Commission regulations. Upcoming meetings. So we mentioned we have a regular select board meeting next on the November 16th, which is back on a, and I'm going to look at my calendar, back on a Tuesday. And in our announcements, we saw that we have the operating budget meeting, the department head meeting on November 20th, which is a Saturday. I'm presuming, Ryan, that you're expecting that we should just block off the day.
No,
It's
I would
probably
think
not a 2-hour meeting.
I would think it'd be probably more like a morning. I mean, my hope is to get everybody out of there by noon.
Okay, everybody, we heard that, right?
Mhm. No, no.
is that a Zoom? I'm sorry to
It
ask.
will
but-
be, it will be, it will be,
Okay.
yes.
And then it's not on here, and this is just for folks to think about. So our normal meeting date in November, one of our meeting dates could be November 30th, but because of the election, we changed it to December 1st. So we do have a meeting scheduled on December 1st. And I just want to throw out there that the normal meeting dates in December then would be the 1st and the 3rd Tuesdays, which would be the 7th and the 21st. That technically gives us 3 meetings in December, but it's just because that one meeting is changed by a day. So just FYI, we'll firm those up as we ensure that we have, I'm sure we'll have items to put on the agenda, but I just wanted to throw those dates out there because, you know, December gets to be a little bit of a busy month. But at the moment, we're looking at the 7th and the 14th, first, the 7th and the 14th. So if anybody has any issue with that, if you let Ryan know.
The 1st, the
Try to-
7th, and the 14th?
You said
Yeah,
21
because-
earlier.
I'm sorry, Gary.
You said 7 and 21 to start.
I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. I should just let someone else do this part. I seem to never get it right. It's the December meetings. I'd like to think that we can go back to our regular 1st and 3rd, and it's the 7th and the 21st.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
I
Got
wrote
it.
it down on my piece of paper
right.
wrong. But we do have that 3rd meeting in December, which is December 1st. Okay, phew. Anything else that we need to talk about tonight? Yeah, Gary.
Just a question for the agenda on the 16th. Will we be talking big budget policy items?
Yeah, I think maybe Ryan can review. Ryan's already communicated with the department heads, but I think it would probably be good to review what they're under, what conditions or criteria they're working on. Does that work for you, Ryan?
Possibly, but I think I'd have to see where we are on the 16th. My guess is we're going to be right up to the 20th. So I don't want to make any commitment right now, but I'll have a conversation with Jamie, assess where we are at that point. And by the time we put the agenda together, we'll have a better sense of where that will be.
Gary, are you asking for the actual?
No, I was
Numbers?
not looking for numbers as such, more of
Right.
select board discussion on where we're going with the financial policy. You know, we know there is a reserve officer, regular officer decision to be made within the police department that's going to really affect the budget. And I think we need to look at some sort of guidance to the how we're going to deal with the expected inflation, as anybody that's gone to the gas station can see lately.
I think we could have a general discussion about what we're thinking about budget in general without, knowing that we'll see actual numbers on the 20th. But I
Right.
think it's kind of in line. I mentioned this, we did things a little out of order this year, but I think what Gary's asking, Ryan, is more in line with the memo that you've written that the department had. So the conditions under which they're working, just so that we have that, summarized for us before we go into our meeting on the Saturday.
And Gary, to the point about the reserve officer changes, we met today with the police and we're asking them to provide an updated memo, sort of offering what the options would be to the town in terms of, what we might be able to do with those options available. And outlining that both for the select board and the finance committee regarding potential avenues in that regard. So that certainly might be something we could talk about at the 16th as well.
Sounds good.
All right. Anything else? I don't see it like there is. If not, I will take that favorite motion of everyone's.
Oh, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Although first, wait, before we do that, I think we got to get Gary some purple.
Oh yeah, it's purple night. Oh
I
yeah.
just noticed that we need to get you
Oh,
a purple
yeah.
shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't
I
work.
didn't get the
We
I think
memo.
Ryan's got a little purple in there too.
Right, yeah.
So I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay, we'll move to a vote. Diane,
Yes.
Gary,
yes.
Catherine, yes. Thanks, everyone. It was an important but thankfully short meeting. Stay tuned for folks who would like to see the finance committee meeting. They're coming up at 7:30.
Awesome.
Have
Thank
a
you
good
very
night,
much.
everyone.
Good night.
Take care.